All right, I feel like we should probably get started. It's going to be very informal today, but I still have my opening remarks because I write them down so I don't ramble on endlessly. So, okay, everybody. Well, welcome. Again, I'm Todd Fernandez with Climate Crisis Policy, and I'll be your host. As part of Climate Week NYC, I'm very happy to announce the launch of our 2020 Climate Bill package of 10 bills collectively supported by over 1,200 organizations. This is a small but meaningful milestone in building unity across movements and policy sectors. And Greg, I'm gonna ask you to mute everybody except me. Let's try this again. Get muted.
Okay, Todd, would you unmute yourself?
There we go. So I'll start over. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Todd Fernandez with Climate Crisis Policy, and I'll be your host today. As part of Climate Week NYC, I'm happy to announce the launch of our 2020 Climate Bill package of 10 bills collectively supported by over 1,200 organizations. This is a small but meaningful milestone in building unity across movements and policy sectors to build the political power required to pass massive climate legislation next Congress. The Climate Bill package tackles a good array of topics, but not all by far, including regenerative agriculture, fracking, fossil fuel subsidies, plastics, refrigerants, confined animal feeding, toxic pesticides, planting billions of trees, restoring wetlands, environmental justice, and just transition. Collectively, these have several climate, environmental, and structural benefits and are core elements of a more comprehensive legislative agenda in 2021. While these are just the beginning, putting them together serves a structural purpose, helping us to organize ourselves across topics and passions so we are ready to fight and win next year. Today, we'll get started on contacting Congress together. There are 535 people who control the fate of the world, with the power in the United States to stop our share of global warming. The US House and Senate. Of the 435 House representatives, over 100 have already co-sponsored the Green New Deal resolution. So our plan is to focus on those 100, all of whom should support the package, which is rather basic to any Green New Deal. And we'll also have the adopted districts that go beyond that list of 100. We'll talk about this more in a little bit. We'll go over that list together and hopefully sign up some folks to adopt the other districts. Please know that this isn't a lifetime commitment. The first step is to email the representative, and that's very simple. And if you do that and that's all you can do, that's still great. And then if you're game, the idea is to build many coalitions in your district, finding the actives who support the underlying issues tackled in the package. So that's the strategy, to link the passions across these areas, to unite the bee and butterfly activists who care about the toxic pesticides ban, the animal protectors against factory farming, all sorts of people excited about bans on plastic and making manufacturers deal with their trash. Many are passionate about banning fracking, especially near homes and schools. There's support for fossil fuel communities in transition and protection for pollution suffering communities. For democracy fighters eager to stop oligarchs, there's an antitrust review of big ag and moratorium. And the package stops $15 billion a year in taxpayer welfare to big oil. And if you're not already excited by all of that, there's a job corps to hire thousands to plant billions of trees and restore wetlands. There's a lot in this package, which we'll detail in a minute again. And the trick now is to find those activists in each district and unite to get the votes. As you know, the legislation in the package was drafted by highly respected organizations, with some bills having extensive community process and coalition backing. Leading groups include Food and Water Action, NRDC, Climate Justice Alliance, Center for Biological Diversity, and Family Farm Alliance, among many others. As I mentioned, over 1,200 groups support the various bills. So this should be a pretty easy sell, but we'll see. Certain bills will encounter political hurdles depending on the lead sponsor. Others, people will want amendments, and there's room to discuss that going forward, but we don't have time really for nitpicking in politics. We need aggressive, demonstrated leadership to help promote unity, which we need above all else right now. The policy details will ultimately be worked out later in Congress. For now, we're just setting the stage, organizing ourselves, and taking names. Various groups are currently reviewing the package. We had a great faith team meeting with wonderful new interest there. I'm talking with the Church World Service this week. March for Science and Climate Reality teams are both talking to headquarters. And we're now ready to really do outreach for the package to groups and coalitions. So the hope is that groups and existing networks will join the action and adopt areas as well. Don't forget that there are other bills in review, some we looked at that are yet to be filed, so they're not on the list of 10. The International Forest Bill will be out in November, and the Climate Equity Act is not yet filed. There's also a new bill, the Future Generations Protection Act, to ban new fossil fuel infrastructure, and we'll be reviewing that on our October 7th meeting. I also hear the Democrats just passed a bill, which we'll look at. The point here is that there will be many bills to come. We're just getting started. So as you know, expectations are high in 2021. This will be the first opportunity for huge climate action in Congress. To prepare for that, we must grow our nationwide coalition capability and infrastructure so that civil society writ large is ready to seize this moment and save our planet from ecological disaster. Welcome everyone to that effort. Today we'll hear from Cody Atkinson from Family Farm Action, who will give us a little overview, and then we'll talk through the first steps of action together, sharing some documents and doing the first action steps together. So this is sort of a working launch meeting. As we do that, we'll have Joshua Chafee give an overview of the bills, and then we'll look at sponsor targets together and talk about other next steps. Thank you all so much for being a part of this journey so far. Your enthusiasm has inspired me to continue. It sort of forces me to continue. And so onward we go. For October's meetings on the 7th and 21st, we'll feature report backs from our policy sector teams on the House Climate Action Plan and what's good, bad, and missing. In November, we'll have a meeting November 4th. So we'll see about that the day after the election. If we're up for it, we might just come together to be together. And then there are preliminary plans or thinking in motion for a day-long webinar on November 18th, inviting the big greens and existing major coalitions to discuss 2021 legislative strategy. We might have that be a 2-day conference, at which point we'll also include faith groups, grassroots and direct action, and EJ and JT groups. If you have interest in helping with that, please let me know. And last, looking far ahead to December, we may have a climate cabaret fundraiser event led by Studio 54 in New York City. We'll see. Stay tuned for that. So from now on, there's one critical question. What is the climate legislative plan for 2021? What is the movement strategy? The package is a good start, but there's much more to getting ready for the fight of our lives to save this paradise from the love of money and to put Earth, our creator, first above all else in order to save ourselves and all life on Earth. So with that small goal in mind, I'd like to welcome Cody, our partner at Family Farm Action, to say words about the package and building unity across the sectors. Thank you, Cody, for all the support so far, and welcome. Let's make sure he's with us.
Yeah, I'm right here.
All right, Cody, hello, welcome. Oh, look at it, there's 70 of us here. What a great turnout. Thank you, everyone. All right, go ahead, Cody. And after he speaks, we'll open some documents and then we'll hear the review of all the bills while we all tinker around in those documents.
Gotcha. Thank you so much, Todd, and thank you for putting this together. Todd first reached out to Family Farm Action, I believe, back in May or June. We've been very excited to have joined this wonderful group of folks dedicated to combating climate change and really setting our planet on a different path that is both economically viable while also being environmentally sustainable and environmentally vibrant. So Family Farm Action, our core mission has always been to fight monopoly control of our food system that has really run rampant and stood as a roadblock to reforms that we believe are necessary to combat climate change while also giving farmers and ranchers the opportunity to put animals back on pasture, protect our wetlands, wildlife, those bird species that rely so heavily on properly managed grazing systems, and have seen a steep decline over the past 50 to 70 years, sometimes north of 50% in depopulation. So when Todd reached out to us, we really wanted to jump at the opportunity to show off that agriculture can be a part of the solution when properly managed. And with that, we had already been doing a lot of work with senators and representatives like Senator Booker on the Food and Agribusiness Merger Moratorium, or the Climate Stewardship Act, or even the Farm System Reform Act. Senators Warren and Sanders, even Senator Lee got in on some of the work we have been doing. And then Shelley Pingree, Representative Pingree, Representative Khanna, and so many others have really dedicated a lot of their time and focus within agricultural policy on climate change. So incredibly excited to be a part of this effort. And we believe very strongly that this cannot be done in silos, as Todd and I have discussed countless times now. We all need to come together. We all need to recognize that what will kill all of this is if we move in our own direction. So having this focus, having this consensus on these bills, and expanding them and coming together is going to be vital in their passage and a brighter, greener future for generations to come. So with that being said, I believe I'll hand it back off to Todd, and we'll get down into the nitty-gritty.
Thank you so much, Cody. It's very exciting, all these different sectors coming together. All right, so we'll dig in a little bit. So the first thing I want to share with you is in the chat. It's if you click on the package website, and I'm going to share my screen. And we just have to applaud Dylan, who is our web magician, who has worked tirelessly to put everything up on the website. So if you open it, you'll see that it has information about the bill package in the opening. And right in the opening, we ask immediately to join the adopted district team and to email your representative. And it has the draft email, which we're going to go into. Then it has the bill overviews, you can see here, and all the votes, which is now current. And then it has the group endorsements. Some of them have 0 because we are waiting for lists. So don't let that be considered a negative. It's not. Those groups, those bills all have groups behind them, but some approach that more formally than others. So we have to work on that still. If you click on a bill, it'll take you to a short, I won't do that now, but it'll take you to a short description of the bill. Well, let's do it. Let's click on a bill. And there it is. It says the number of votes. It has the Congress people who supported that bill. Then it has the organizations that support that bill. So exciting. And at the top is the short bullet point summary that was in the press release. And then you can see a link there, view bill text and official vote list. And that takes you to the .gov site, which is useful to go to because you always want to check the latest there in terms of sponsors before you assume somebody's not a sponsor. So then it has the votes, and this lists all the districts. And let me see if I can move this around here. All the districts, as you can see, and let's scroll down till we see one that's adopted already. There we go, Liz, right here, there you are. And you click on Liz and you'll see her email and the organizations that she's with. Down below that is Rachel on Colorado. She just adopted Colorado. And there you see the same information. And if you click on adopted district, it takes you to the general form and you can adopt that district. And once we have that information, we'll add it here. And then the last is the group endorsements. And you can see all the groups that have endorsed various bills. There'll be search mechanisms for this later. But it's exciting that that's all up and everything that you need really is there to forward this around and share it with people. And we talked about having a separate website for the package, and we might still try to pull that together. It'll just take a little bit longer. And if we do have that, then we could sort of brand that in a more neutral way. And we'll just list all the organizations that have endorsed the package, you know, below their logos, like you see in a lot of group efforts, like when it's a march or something like that. And that way we can have a more neutral platform that's not our particular platform. But we did this to get us up and running. And thanks again to Dylan, who's worked tirelessly. All right, so that's that. The next thing on our list is to look at the draft email. So I'm just going to click it right open from here. Well, it's already open here. Sample email, it's in the link there in the chat. And if everybody could pull up that email, it would be wonderful. And that way you know where it is, and go ahead and copy it, super copy like this, and just copy the whole thing and put it into your email, to an email in your browser, in your own email Gmail account. That way you'll have the draft already over there, which is the first step. I can show you mine. Here's my draft email to Espaillat's office. I contacted them back in 2017 for the OFF Act. And so I've written my own email to them, introduced, since I have a relationship with them already. So it's a little bit different than the one you have there, but it has all the same material at the bottom. So feel free, of course, to edit and rewrite these emails as you choose. One thing to note in the sample email is that when you get down to the middle, how can I move this out of my way? There we go. It has a section note, search the vote count and tailor this paragraph, and delete if there are no, if your representative doesn't have any, hasn't co-sponsored any bills yet. So in my instance, I already wrote that he has co-sponsored 2 of the bills and the Green New Deal resolution, and he's also a lead sponsor on the new bill that we don't have in here yet, the Future Generations bill. So I put all that in my email and the paragraph of my email to Espaillat's office, which is addressed to the legislative directors in my email. So the vote counts, you can see on the website, you know, if they've sponsored any of the bills in the package. But there are 2 other things on this, on the Google spreadsheet, which I think I put in the chat, that you want to look at as you're doing this. And that is the Green New Deal resolution, really, right over here. And you can also look at that at the .gov site. So we have 99 sponsors of the Green New Deal resolution. On the .gov official site, which if you click here, it'll take you to it, there's like 102 or something. So before you decide that your representative has not co-sponsored the Green New Deal resolution, double check there, because they may have. But only about 15 or so of the folks who have adopted districts already are in districts that have endorsed the Green New Deal resolution. So about the rest of our adopted districts are not. So just be mindful of that. That's really the only tricky part of this, is you have to figure out which bills your congressperson has already sponsored. And we include the Green New Deal resolution just because anyone who did that really should sponsor all of this. All right. So that's the last piece, is to look up your representative. You could go back to the website if you want, or you could do it right here in the vote count and find your representative, see which bills they've sponsored, and finish your email basically. And you know, as part of that, you have to reach out to the congressperson's office, and get the name of the legislative director and their email. If you can find the climate crisis policy expert, you could ask for that too. And so whoever the policy lead is on climate, you could get that name too. And that will be good to include that email on the list. So I believe I think we have a couple questions on that. Maybe we need to take those, and then as you're doing all that work, we'll invite Joshua to review the bills again, so we can just get back in our mind the other bills. Oh, all right. So let's see. I know that Catherine raised her hand. I saw a sign go up. All right, all sorts of questions on the side. So I forgot to ask, we needed someone here to help review the questions today. And I forgot to ask someone to do that. I see a lot of questions. I'm not sure what to do about all those questions. So anyone here on the call that could help?
Todd, this is Tara. I can probably help do that. I'm just right now including a link to all of the template letters, but if you are going to send out letters to, if you are going to adopt a district, make sure that you let us know if you haven't already, because in case there's somebody on the call it's your first time on the call, you are so welcome, and you're welcome to, take these templates and send stuff to your legislators, but we want to try to not have multiple people working on the same legislator without knowing that other people are doing that.
And the adopted district link is everywhere, really, on the website, multiple places. But here it is again, the form in the chat. Oh, that was a private message, sorry. To everyone. So great. I'll let you look at questions.
I'll look for questions, yeah.
And if you could just summarize those and we'll answer them after
Okay.
Joshua goes. All right, Joshua, I think you're going to be up. And while everyone's working on copying and yes, the list of bill co-sponsors is up to date. Thank you to several people who helped with that. But always double check the .gov listing. So if you click on the text for a bill, it'll take you to the .gov, congress.gov, and that will show you the latest. So if you want to make sure that your congressperson has, and that's okay, it's not the end of the world. If you send your email and they're like, we already co-sponsored one of these, you'll be like, great, okay, do the rest. So it's not, life or death if we mess that up a little bit, but it's nice to be up to speed, obviously, and as current as possible. We actually need some volunteers to help keep those vote counts current for each bill, and we'll work on that later. All right, Joshua, while Tara reviews the questions, why don't we invite you up to review the bills again for everyone.
Great, thanks, Todd. I'll go ahead and just start sharing my screen here. So I'm Joshua Chafee. I've spoken at a few of these meetings, so I think I see a lot of familiar faces and some new ones as well. And my background is in journalism and news and documentary production. And with the group, I've been working mainly with the marketing team, with Brenna Cohen and Jonathan Brady, and speaking with Todd about sort of messaging for the campaign and what steps that we need to take in terms of getting that sort of campaign underway, as well as sort of messaging each bill in the package. So you saw the press release that went out this morning that stated the mission statement, why we're all here, as well as really sort of concise bullet points of each bill. And I'll go into a little bit more depth here. I think the idea was to kind of just be able to run through all 10 bills so we get a feel of the full scope of what we're doing. And so hopefully I will do justice to all these bills. We've been just drawing on the real expert presentations that we've all seen over the last several months on here and the discussions that came out of those. So I will dive in here in a minute. The climate bill package, and I will just say on a personal note, and I'm sure all of us feel this way, it's been just really exciting to really dig into these aspects of the climate crisis. Some that I know it's been a real learning experience for me and probably many of us. But I think we've come to a place here that we have a bill package that addresses both the biggest issues of greenhouse gas emissions as well as carbon sequestration, but then also air and water quality, public health, climate justice, and environmental pollution. So we'll get right to it here. As we broke it down in the press release, there's sort of 4 main categories that these 10 bills fit into: materials, forests and farming, fossil fuels, and then environmental justice. So we'll start with the materials, and the first one being the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act. And I just included 2 statistics at the top that kind of help frame the discussion around this bill. 92% of plastic waste in America is never recycled. It ends up in landfills and waterways and oceans in foreign countries. Eventually ends up being consumed by us. The co-sponsors put forward a statistic in a lot of their materials that the average person on Earth consumes about a credit card worth of plastic every week. And the second statistic here is that this is an environmental pollution issue, but it's a carbon issue. And so the plastic industry as a whole, if it was a nation, it would be the 5th largest producer of emitter of greenhouse gases. I put on here that the industry warms the planet at twice the rate of the airline industry. And so, this was something that Brian Langloss from Oceana, when he was speaking to us about this, really stressed that it is a production problem more so than a consumer problem. So we're looking at the industry is producing 400 million tons of plastic per year. That's set to quadruple by 2050. So that gets us to what this bill does. The largest thing is that it holds the corporations producing this and making profit off this plastic responsible, and does so by basically forcing them to come up with ways to clean up and collect this plastic and to fund those processes while working with the EPA to do so. Also forces them to have established minimum recycled content requirements and pushing companies to produce reusable and fully recyclable products. And so it's all kind of gearing them to stop producing waste because they won't have to fund the cleanup for it quite as much. Secondly, it reduces and bans single-use non-recyclable plastic products, the worst of which it'll ban by 2022. Plastic utensils, those shampoo bottles you find in hotels, things like that. Thirdly, establishes a nationwide 10 cents bottle return refund program based on the success that we've seen in statewide initiatives like that. It halts construction of all new plastic producing facilities. The idea just shutting off the tap to new plastic that's being produced. And then it prevents plastic waste from being shipped to developing countries, which is really a good environmental justice aspect of this bill. Number 2, the American Innovation and Manufacturing Act, the AIM Act, and what we're talking about is hydrofluorocarbons, HFCs, and it's something that Alex Hillebrand from NRDC did a great job of breaking this down several times on calls for us. But the industrial gas used in refrigeration, air conditioning, and building insulation, it is a potent, extremely potent greenhouse gas. So the bill would be an 85% reduction in manufacturing and import of HFCs by 2036, as well as in the meantime, instructing the EPA to implement leak prevention and disposal requirements for products that are existing products using HFCs. And sort of this last note is something that a lot of the co-sponsors, this has strong bipartisan support. And, what's frequently mentioned is the job creation potential. And that's true in a lot of these bills. And I think in a lot of climate bills is that you're giving market certainty to the industry as well as, really opening up these markets. So that's some of the job creation. Number 3, the last that we have under the materials list is the Protect America's Children from Toxic Pesticides Act. The 2 statistics I think that really just stick out that, the US uses over 1 billion pounds of pesticides annually, nearly 1/5 of all pesticides which are used in the world. And secondly, that of those pesticides, 1/3 of the pesticides we're using in the US are pesticides that are banned in the EU. So what this does, first and foremost, it bans some of the most harmful pesticides, those that cause developmental damage in children, neurological damage, lead to increased rates of Parkinson's, insecticides that lead to pollinator collapse, and then suspending pesticides that are deemed unsafe in Canada and the EU while an EPA review process goes through. Secondly, protecting frontline communities, that is, from requiring employers to report injuries related to pesticides, so we actually know the extent of the problem, and secondly, the labeling of especially harmful pesticides, ensuring that the labeling is done multilingually. And lastly, empowering local communities to take action on this, which is sort of giving communities the opportunity to petition the EPA. And also association. One point, obviously, a public, aspect here that's centrally, it's also very much tied to climate, and the sort of larger big ag relies more on pesticides that would, really would regenerative practices allow you to replace the use of pesticides as well as fertilizers. Which gets us to the next sort of slate of bills, which is the farming and forestry section. And the first being the Farm System Reform Act, targeting large concentrated animal feeding operations, CAFOs, produce an enormous amount of waste and harmful pollution. And so the sort of top line is phasing out these CAFOs by 2040. Immediately halting new construction and expansion, and then investing $100 billion over 10 years for just transition. So farmers can, to aid farmers in transitioning to regenerative practices. And it's, an example that Jake Davis from Family Farm Action brought up, where farmers that are basically caught, they're locked into contracts with large corporations where they're operating CAFOs on their property. Maybe they're leasing their property to the feeding operation, and they're still really just hovering around the poverty line and not able to break out of that system. So this would provide some opportunity for that. The next is the Food and Agribusiness Merger Moratorium Act. The scope of the issue: 4 beef companies produce 85% of beef in America. 4 corporations control nearly 90% of the U.S. grain market. And so, what you have is that farmers and ranchers are forced to sell into a market at lower prices. And also you have really dramatic climate impacts from this. And so, so what this would do would immediately halt corporate consolidation within the farming industry, food and beverage manufacturing, and grocery retail, while there's a commission that investigates the impact of this kind of hyper consolidation, and that is including the impact on climate, which these sort of larger corporations tend to thwart the progress on regenerative practices. Moving along here to these next 2 that really deal with farming practices. The Climate Stewardship Act is really a bill that would bolster existing programs that we have in place. And so it funds and expands existing federal programs to reduce or offset 1/3 of agriculture emissions by 2025, which is just sort of a remarkable top line. That's through programs through, for instance, the USDA, technical assistance that helps farms incorporate climate stewardship practices like cover crops, rotational grazing, other aspects to improve soil health that obviously sequesters carbon, but also water retention and helps pollinators. And additionally, grant funding for clean on-farm energy switching, helping farmers make that transition to solar and wind energy, biofuels. So that's sort of the first large point of this. The second is planting 16 billion trees. And I think what's especially remarkable is 400 million of which would be in urban areas with a focus on low-income communities and communities of color. And these are neighborhoods that often do not have the benefit of those tree canopies, which benefit the air quality in that area, as well as providing lowering the heat and temperature. You kind of get these heat zones when you don't have that tree canopy from the concrete. So both of which have an impact on public health. Restores and protects 2 million acres of essential coastal wetlands. Dual benefit of wetlands that sequester carbon, but are also really our first line of defense, in this climate crisis. It's something that hits close to home for me. I was, out of my apartment for 8 months after Hurricane Sandy. And pretty remarkably, in New Jersey, the coastal wetlands are depleted by 40%. Despite that, we're still able to prevent over $500 million in property loss. If we were to be able to increase that, it's just bolstering our defenses. And then finally, the bill invests in regional food systems. From investing in local community gardens to, in a larger scale, helping small and medium-sized farms deliver fresh, nutritious meals to local communities, which is both beneficial in terms of the food that they're delivering, but also reducing the emissions from transporting. And the last bill we have here under Farming and Forestry, the Agricultural Resilience Act. And so these are some new programs to do. There's some overlap and similar ideas here, of course. Rewarding farmers for promoting carbon sequestration and healthy soils, doing so with tax incentives and a future potential carbon market they could take advantage of. Investing in a ton of research and support for farmers who practice pasture-based livestock systems, which is obviously incredibly important and what we've been talking about with regenerative practices. And then additional grants and loans that help farms transition to green energy alternatives. And lastly, a robust focus, federal programs aimed at reducing food waste in schools, in restaurants and larger institutions, as well as creating a standardized food date labeling system to reduce confusion among consumers. Moving on here, you'll see the banners, the colors on the top are changing as we kind of change to a different section here. This is fossil fuels. We have two bills there. The Fracking Ban Act, Jim Walsh from Food and Water Action did just a great job of breaking this down for us. The top line that obviously it bans fracking nationwide by January 1st, 2025. Immediately halts new permits for fracking and fracking infrastructure. It revokes current permits for fracking wells within 2,500 feet of homes, schools, and other inhabited structures, which is just remarkable that we are currently fracking that close to schools, for instance. And then the last is establishing a just transition committee. Prioritizing, transferring, transitioning workers in the fossil fuel industry to good paying jobs in their communities, while also paying attention to the public health of those communities that have relied on the fossil fuel economy. The ninth, the End Polluter Welfare Act. So this is a eliminating up to $150 billion in federal subsidies that go to the fossil fuel industry over 10 years. Included in that is updating what are currently under market royalty rates for oil and gas production on federal lands, recouping royalties from offshore drilling in public waters, and prohibiting taxpayer-funded fossil fuel research and development. Lastly, funding the Black Lung Disability Fund for workers that provided decades of service in providing energy to America. And then lastly is the environmental justice, just transition. So addressing disparities in environmental and public health, particularly impacting underserved communities and communities of color. It does so in several ways. First and foremost, amending the Civil Rights Act, allowing citizens and communities to seek legal remedies when policies or practices cause a disparate impact. And what that translates to is if you have policies, for instance, manufacturing that is consistently being set up in a certain community that maybe the individuals cannot prove discriminatory intent, they can still seek legal remedies and lawsuits because of the disparate fallout from this. So currently, basically, the law requires that the EPA initiate those. This would empower citizens and communities to do so. $75 million annually for research and program development to reduce public health disparities. It would require federal agencies to consider the cumulative health effects while permitting under the Clean Air and Clean Water Act. And finally, providing economic assistance for communities that depend on the fossil fuel industry and have depended on the fossil fuel industry, and assuring a just transition for both those workers and local economies. Something that would be paid for in this bill by new fees on oil, gas, and coal companies. So they really should be paying for this transition. And that is sort of the scope of the climate bills here, and hopefully I think that we all feel like we have you know, a great first step here that can then be built upon with future legislation, but this is the much needed first step to a better future.
All right, Joshua, I'm sure if you could hear them, everybody would be screaming and applauding. I'll do it on their behalf. Yay!
I hope I did it justice. We've had just such great presentations on these over the months.
You did it more than justice. Because the most important thing is trying to distill and summarize and have it translated from the people who live this 24 hours a day to folks who are coming from the public's perspective. And, you know, having you translate it and summarize it and help to start shape the public message is just invaluable. It's definitely the transition from where, you know, the policy wonks are to the public. And I, for one, am just excited hearing someone else become expert in all the bills already and being able to articulate it so wonderfully. And thank you just for all your work on this and the homework you did. And it's just excellent. It's
Thank you
excellent.
for your leadership.
Oh, my pleasure. All right, everybody, are you all excited about that? Let me see if I can see everybody again. Are people's fingers up? Oh, there you all are. Yay, applause. Do you see if you go to whatever it's called, view, the group view, you'll see everybody very happy. I see all the smiles. Yay, it's great to see everybody.
Todd, one of the top questions was, can we have Joshua's slides? And also, is there a recording of his presentation that we'll be able to access? I'm guessing the whole meeting will be recorded and available on YouTube. Maybe if we can drop that link in the chat, that would be helpful. But yeah, Joshua, can we have your slides?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Absolutely, we can share that.
Figure out where to put them. I'll think about that. The video is definitely being recorded as we speak, and all of our videos are on YouTube. And maybe we'll ask our editors there to give us a cut of just Joshua's presentation that you could then use to share with folks.
Yeah, I think that would be really, really helpful. Maybe even to have it right on the website would be cool. But it was great. Yeah, it's a lot to summarize.
Yeah, it sure is. And so there's a toolkit as well that if you got an email today from us with the press announcement and everything, and you get down to the list of bills, you'll see the toolkit linked. It's not linked elsewhere because frankly, the email sort of covers it, but in the toolkit, we will put these slides as well. And there are just other materials in the toolkit if you want, but I think we've gotten most of it up on the website now. So I think all you need is the email. All right. Well, this is wonderful. We're cooking with steam here. All right. The next thing on our list, are any more questions, Tara?
There are more questions. So
let's ask a couple.
Do you want them now?
Sure.
All right. So one question is, will there be a carbon pricing bill?
Oh, and so just so everyone knows, the carbon pricing team is hard at work. It's a wonderful team. It's got lots of people on it, lots of CCL members, and everyone's working beautifully together. And they've solicited questions for that. Maybe if somebody could find that link and put it in here. And they've organized those questions from everybody. They came in from all angles. And now they're working on answers. And they'll be reporting back, and we'll probably have a longer session than just the report back from the other sectors, which we're going to have in October. Those will be like 15 minutes each on each policy sector. This topic will need a little bit more time, so we'll probably, schedule maybe a full meeting or half a meeting, and we'll invite CCL back, and we'll go over all the questions, and then we'll just see where the energy is. So we're working on that very diligently. And that team seems to be happy about their progress and approach.
Another question is, are you working with the Climate Reality Project leadership team, and are they supporting any bills?
So Climate Reality, while we answer these questions, I'm going to do something here. Well, as you know, many folks from Climate Reality are involved, and Harriet from the New York chapter is talking to headquarters, and Regina is drafting an email that's going to go out to their whole network. Our emails also go out to the 350 network. And now we're ready, I think, to go out to other networks. So please feel free to share everything. I had started drafting an organizational email outreach like we have to Congress. I'll finish that and get it in the toolkit. But you guys know how to, invite everyone to do it. So, because you're all sort of expert organizers already. So feel free to forge ahead with that. Any other questions? Oh, I was going to pull up while we're answering these, if I can do this at the same time. This document, oh shoot, where are we? Still with me, everyone? I can't find, oh, here we are. So let me click screen share. Go ahead and ask, and I'll do this while we.
Sure. One really great question was, will there be a group of designated speakers to talk to organizations about this?
So on the bill package information and the email to Congress, you'll see in the summary package, which has the more detailed, you'll see the NGO contacts for each bill. So, it won't, those folks are open to questions from organizations, clearly. So those contacts are there. The legislative sponsor contacts are also there for most of the bills. And I just ask everyone not to contact those folks individually. That's for the legislative directors to contact those staff members directly. But it's all in the package. So, but if you have questions, if you have organizations with questions about the package and the bills, let's try to vet those a little bit internally first. So forward those along to me, I guess, for now. If you have any, and then so we'll offer us up first, and then we'll let them know when you give them that information, they'll see the contacts and they can make their own decisions as to contact those groups directly, which is not a problem. Everyone seems very open to that. All right, while we're still answering
Um,
questions, I'm sharing this screen, so please take a look at this screen. This is the list of targets that we've come up with, and it's the Green New Deal resolution co-sponsors. So as you can see, we have one in Arizona, we have several in California, lots, Connecticut, DC at large, Florida, Illinois, Massachusetts. So you'll see them. It's a great list of target. And as I say, all these folks did that resolution, so they should be pretty easy asks, comparatively speaking, but that's what we'll find out. And if we can clear 100, if we can get 100 groups on board for this package, and then as it evolves, we'll be, in solid footing going into next year, because it'll mean that, all right, now we basically need 235 to pass the House. So we'll have half down, and that's a pretty good place to go into next year. And it clears the low-hanging fruit, so then we can say, okay, now we know where to start focusing our scarce or not so scarce resources as a movement. And this, if anyone is able to adopt any of these districts right now, that would be wonderful. You can raise your hand, you can put it in the chat, or you could fill out the form. If you're going to do it, if you want to do one, please put it in the chat so we can get excited about it.
There, a couple of people have been sending me stuff during the meeting, and thank you guys very much. And Meryl and Paula are both on this meeting too. They're coordinating different areas, so you might get shifted over to them. Yay, Rosemary Moore, thank you for adopting Washington 9. That's fantastic.
Who else do we have to adopt?
So, well, before I want to just, a lot of questions were ones that already kind of got answered, but just to briefly go over it for anyone that was having trouble finding things, if you go to climatecrisispolicy.org, and then you go to the menu in the top right-hand corner, the square with the 3 black lines in it, and you click on that, and you drag down to action campaigns, which is the second thing after home.
Well, actually,
yeah.
You can get it from there to there, but at the bottom of that menu, it says climate bill votes. Here, I can go to the website and show that.
Well, on the action campaigns ones, there's all of the resources that people were looking for, because a lot of people were looking for many different resources that I think are all on that page.
Got you. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Draft email, adopt a district, who's sponsored bills, it's all there.
All right, so let's do it again. So you're saying go to action campaign. You can see now we're on the website. I brought down the menu. Move you guys all out of the way. And right here is what she's saying, action campaign. And you click on there, and first thing you see is the carbon clock. And then you see the 2020 climate bill package and our network. Just a little introduction. And then all the sort of steps: take action now, build group support, learn and support the package, join our meetings, join the review and federal policy team.
There's nothing showing on the screen.
Uh-huh. Really?
Nothing's showing. It's a blank screen.
New share. Let me see here. I was maybe on that. Here, is that showing now?
Yeah, it's showing now.
Okay, so here's the menu again. Action campaigns, and at the bottom you can see climate bills, votes, and vote count. That's the package that we were just looking at. We'll change that to say 2020 climate bill package so it's clearer. But this is the action campaigns page. And so we can close this, I think. I don't know if I can close that. Well, anyway, I won't try. First, you see the carbon clock, which is always good to remember. 7 years, 3 months. When you first go to it, it's pre-programmed to be open to 2 degrees. I tried to get the people who do this clock to switch it to default to the 1.5 first. That was an interesting conversation. So anyway, here you have the package and the network, and then below you see all the things you can do. Take action now. So help collect the votes, find your rep, sign up for Adopt a District, Tara's emails there, build group support, learn the package, join our meetings, join the policy team sectors, and then the bill details. So everything is right there that you need, and that's what Tara was trying to lead you to. All right, any other questions?
There definitely are two questions that I definitely, one is somebody asked if if your district is not one of the districts that we're especially targeting, should you still adopt it? And I think that's a resounding yes, right, Todd?
Absolutely. So only
Yeah.
about 15 of our currently 40 or so adopted districts are on this target list. So that means about 35 of you will have districts that don't have somebody who sponsored the Green New Deal. Not a problem. Hopefully they've sponsored one another bills, but it doesn't matter. So absolutely adopt your own district. And then if you can adopt other districts on this list, that would be wonderful. And we can talk a little bit about forming a little team to go after any emails that we don't have someone adopting, and we could do it collectively as well.
And then there's a question from Tim Keating that's kind of complicated that a lot of people would like to have answered, discussed, about forestry and carbon counting. And I wonder if we can unmute him and have him express it, or save it for a different.
Let's save it, because here's what we're going to do. So on all these bills and all the sectors, the policy teams are reviewing the House plan. They're also looking at these bills to see what's missing. And so through October and into November, I'll stop my share, but I'm just keeping this list up here so you can keep seeing it. You know what I look like. In October and November, we will be coming up with what's missing, whatever problematic issues there are or concerns that people have. I've been getting emails about some of those things. Please send those concerns to the policy sector, the relevant policy sector, or you can send them to Christine, or you can just hold them for now, and there will be spreadsheets where you can input your questions and concerns about everything. So we'll be going into those details later, and if it's okay, we'll pass on that level of question for now, knowing that these bills are just a starter kit, basically. Things are going to change, and there'll be room and receptivity to making fixes, I think, going into next year. And that's the whole purpose of our journey together, is to figure out what's missing.
Also, if people are really involved in, like, if you see something that seems off to you and it's an area that you know a lot about, please do join the policy team for that area. That would be great.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
One more, could I ask, I still can't see this model email to the legislative assistant. Is that accessible through the action campaign framework? You can click on that. Is that model letter in there, and tools? The tools you talked about, Todd, are they in there too?
Yeah, so the bill is definitely in there. The toolkit is not in here yet, and I need
okay,
to add
then
it.
I'm a freak. Okay, it's not there. All right.
But the email
Okay.
is
Blessings
the
on you.
email
Thank
is
you.
there, and
Thank you. Okay.
I'm going to share the email again in the chat, the draft email. So today's goal was for everyone on the call to copy this email, copy this draft, and put it into your own email browser. So it's sitting there waiting. And then all you have to do is, again, fill in the legislators' names, the legislative directors' names and their emails, and then double check to see which bills your representative has already co-sponsored. Fix that little paragraph, and then you're ready to send. So I think we've come to pretty much conclusion of our planned agenda for today. Just want to touch base briefly again about this plan for November 18th and 19th. It's very much in the early stages of consideration, but the idea is to try to have a conference that focuses on the big greens and the existing major coalitions. And if it's 2 days, again, faith, grassroots, and direct action, and EJ and just transition groups. So we'll figure exactly how to do this. And the question we'll be asking everybody is, what is the climate legislative plan for 2021, and how do we collaborate? So if you're interested in that and you have contacts to the CEO level of your organizations, or if you have organizations that you think should be invited to this, that you feel are the ringleaders in various areas. The big greens, we sort of have a list that's sort of obvious, but we were looking for those names. You can feel free to put those in the chat as well, and particularly existing coalitions, formal coalitions that actually, you know, have infrastructure and structure and voting procedures and things like that that are operating in policy sectors. Those are the ones we want to connect to. And frankly, we're connected to a lot of them through the bills. You know, you get the idea, and we'll see if we can tiptoe our way into that. And if we get some good response early on, we'll forge ahead. Now, for the rest of the meeting, people had asked if we could go into the policy sector breakout groups. And so if there's nothing else on our launch or questions, I don't know, does anyone want to say, just anyone in the group want to make a comment about the package and the project so far? Just a couple, if you want to raise your hand, get some comments from our community. And Lavona, I don't know if you want to mention anything quickly about next steps with the faith groups. Real quick, you would like to?
Yes, we had a very positive meeting recently, and a lot of interest among the faith community for working on aspects of this. And I know, Todd, you're going to be speaking to the Church World Services group. And so be coordinating with Corinna Gore on some immediate next steps. There'll probably be at least one follow-up meeting on that. And there's kind of a goal, soft goal, of having participation of faith members on all of the issue teams. And so we'll look at that as part of our strategy moving forward.
Wonderful. Yeah, that was a great, exciting meeting. Reverend Malcolm joined us today again and was on Monday. And it's very exciting, the receptivity to that. Didn't you feel, Lamona? It was really great.
Yeah, a lot of interest, got some emails after it as well with interest and follow-up. So, a concern going into it is that there's a lot on, you know, everybody's agenda already in their own groups, and was a little bit concerned about, well, this is just one more, you know, activity to take on, or more work. But I think that coming out of it, there's a sense of what complements, you know, our work. And I think you did a real good job of making that pitch about, you know, we're stronger together, you know, working together. And the faith community can bring a particular lens and voice to the discussion, especially with our members of Congress.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm so excited about that organizing, really. Did anyone else just want to say, you know, if they feel passionate about the package and the project so far? Some voices from the group? You're welcome to. And while you're thinking about that, if you want to say those things, the idea is we're going to break out to go into our policy sector breakout groups. So I've just listed those in the chat. If you want to do that, then you need to rename yourself. So you go to your little picture and you see the ellipses, and you click on the ellipses where it says rename. Can't do it because, and then you just put the number of your sector, you know, 1 through 9, that you, if you'd like to join those breakout groups. And no pressure, those breakout groups meet on Monday nights, and then they have their own regular meetings set up. And just so everyone in the breakout group knows, our goal is October 7th and the 21st for report backs. So it'll be about 15 minutes per sector, and you'll be, you know, detailing what you reviewed and what was missing from those elements. And so we're looking for volunteers for the October 7th, because that's the closest. And I know that, you know, y'all are hard at work, but not everybody feels they're quite ready. So just, if you feel like you can get your group to readiness by October 7th, we need, I think, 3 more volunteers for that one. It's easier to get volunteers for the 21st.
Todd, it's Amy Sherwood.
Oh, hi, Amy.
Hi. Yeah, I had typed in the chat that there's an announcement, and I don't know if you're aware of the resolution that's being presented as we speak. And it's actually a Children's Fundamental Rights and Climate Recovery Resolution that's being sponsored by Jan Schakowsky, Pramila Jaypal, Bobby Rush, And in the Senate, Jeff Merkley, Cory Booker, and Ed Markey. I'd be at that meeting, but I'm with this one. So the resolution recognizes our current human-caused climate crisis and the hazard it poses to children's health and futures. In order to uphold children's fundamental rights, the resolution mandates that the United States develop and implement a bold and comprehensive climate recovery plan. And it says the plan must put the nation on a trajectory consistent with reducing global atmospheric carbon dioxide to below 350 parts per million by the year 2100.
Thank you, Amy. I had heard about that resolution coming out. Great. And then there's also the Thrive resolution folks can check out. We can include links to these kinds of things in our discussion document, which has all the bills that we're looking at and then the new ones. We're not probably going to be inclined to include resolutions because they don't have the binding effect of law and they're general statements of ideas as a general rule, as opposed to specific actions. But I think it's important for us all to stay abreast of what's going on, and so we can mutually support, as you feel called to do. Does anyone else have a comment about the bill package that we have before us and our collective effort? Anybody's excited about it or has a good way of describing the totality of the approach?
Catherine Skopik and Carol Butt both have their hands raised, and also Rachel Mackliff has a hand raised, Sally Gellert, Mary Tarnoff.
All right, so that's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, so just a couple of those. You want to pick some folks?
How about Rachel Mackliff, because she's had her hand up for a while.
All right, Rachel.
I think we have to unmute her, maybe.
I'm unmuted.
I'm actually Regina, and it has the wrong name on it.
Oh, no worries, Regina. Go ahead.
I unmuted myself.
Okay.
Very briefly, I've probably been driving Todd crazy because I'm very interested in international trade. And I have learned that there is actually a group that is thinking of an international trade bill. When in June 2021, the system of how Congress and the executive branch do international trade will sunset.
Okay.
So there's no sense in my going on and on and on and on, but I'd like Todd to know about this.
Yes. So Rachel, you and I have been emailing about that, and I love you more than anything, as you know. I'm going to cut you off just a little bit because the question on the table is if anyone wants to talk about the package. I know it's hard to get this group to focus, which is our biggest challenge in the world, is getting people to focus. So it's actually 10 after 1. So I don't know about the breakout groups having enough time, but they're just going to touch base and move on. So just one more comment. Regina, do you want to make a comment about the package and the total project?
I just had I had a question for Joshua. Can I ask him a question, or is he still on?
I'm sure he's still on.
I'm still here.
Okay, thank you. Joshua, I see in the bill on dealing with plastic that it does say that there can be companies cannot build more facilities for plastic making. But I'm wondering about the fossil fuel industry has already been really trying to make up for its losses by making more plastic. And I'm wondering, is that being taken care of? Is there other legislation that's going to deal with that?
That's a great point. I think that actually that came up with Brian Langloss from Oceana when he was presenting as well. I'm not sure if there is separate legislation dealing with that. I know that the legislation the measures that are in the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act would hopefully impact that, which is a big issue, that they see a lot of profit in pivoting to plastic production. And I think that, by shutting off new factories that are producing plastics immediately, as well as sort of the overarching goal is making it more expensive or putting more responsibility on plastic producers and therefore making it more expensive to produce plastic, especially wasteful plastic. So the more they can gear them towards reusable products or fully recyclable products, will make it cheaper for them, and decrease the production of really harmful and wasteful plastics.
And if anyone else has questions like this, let's please send them to the policy sectors for now. Let the policy sector folks collect them, and then we will reach out to the the NGO sponsors and answer any questions, because we're probably not going to be the most expert in what's happening, yet. All right, everybody. Well, I think we could do two things at once here. Let's go ahead and let everyone move into a group that wants to. And then if anyone else wants to stay and ask other questions, we can do that as well. So Greg, do you want to go ahead and put people into their groups?
Yeah, I have people lined up to go into their groups. Some of them, some of the groups only have one person. So if you end up in a room by yourself, you can just take yourself out and come back to
the group.
Come back to the main room.
All right. So while you're doing that, we had some other hands up, and we'll try to leave the groups open a little bit past 1:30, so you have a little bit more time. I'm not sure what Greg's availability is.
But, okay. Are you going to announce who is in what? I mean, are you going to announce the group names?
They're all listed in the chat, the numbers. Where did I put that?
Oh, I didn't see that.
I just put it in a minute ago, but several emails have come in since then. Here it is. Policy sectors. I'll put it again. Oh, shoot.
In the chat.
You did that on Monday's meeting. We had that on Mondays.
Yeah, here it is again. It's the same number as last time.
Oh,
if you had a
okay,
meeting.
okay, number one. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, so everyone who's going into your groups, thank you for doing that work. It's wonderful. I can't believe how well things are going. And let's see, what other questions do we have?
The package is great, Todd. I think it's more than step one. Joshua said this is step one. It seems like it's got to be about 7 or 8 because of all the work that went into those. But I'm just very excited about this. I really am. I think so many details have been thought of. I have a couple specific questions, but leave it at that. I can send them. It's great. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations to everyone. This has really been a Herculean team effort. It's unbelievable. I can't, y'all are just incredible. Nancy's there working on the faith, Brennan, the media, everybody. So it's great. Any other comments or questions?
Who does your website? It's fantastic. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Dylan. Yeah,
Dylan,
she's
okay.
the best. Oh, and Cece. Cece designs it and Dylan builds it.
Okay. I still cannot find the link that shows who has already adopted a